This is episode 246 of the Super League Pod, where amongst other things you'll hear our rare and brief sidestep into politics and religion. You'll hear your Say Whaaatt predictions for 2020 in Rugby League, and all the latest Challenge Cup scores and draws. Who's Rogering around? Who's been bummed by a bull? You'll have to listen to find out, and the good news is we're not geo-blocked in Switzerland. So, get strapped in, it's SLP time. Hello listeners, welcome along to episode 246 of the Super League Pod, what I suppose we're going to call the first regular show of 2020. We have this week in the host chair myself, Mark, and I'm joined by Alan. Welcome back, Alan.
Thank you very much. It feels only a few days ago we were sat here. Because
yes,
it was.
It was, yeah. For anyone who wonders what we were doing a few days ago and have somehow missed it, our big 2020 season preview and predictions show was released. Now, everyone else is starting to catch up with their season previews, but ours was the first one, which means ours has the least informed guesses because they're from further in the past.
And therefore, it's definitely better. It just is.
Exactly. The more ludicrous, the more enjoyable. So what we got coming up then for you on this episode of the Super League Pod? We're going to get close to our traditional format this week. For any new listeners, that traditional format goes in the order of news from around the world of Rugby League, match reviews from Super League. Obviously, we don't have that this week. Other results from around the world of Rugby League. So this week we've got the Challenge Cup Round 2 results. Then we normally make our predictions for Super League and for our games of the week from around the other competitions. So we'll be able to do that this week. And then we normally finish off the show with a bit of a quiz, a few recommendations, a little catch-up on what we've been up to outside of our Rugby League worlds. But in between our predictions for round 1 of Super League and us doing our quiz, this week we're going to take you through the fan views we got for the Championship and League One fans, because we did all the Super League ones on the big preview show. So we're going to chat through those and what we expect in those leagues, what me and Alan expect. Obviously, Alan, you have got a vested interest in the Championship as a Bradford Bulls fan, so that's particularly pertinent to you. That's why it's best having you in this episode, really. And also, we're going to go through our Say Whaaatt predictions, for which we got from you guys for 2020, which are basically things that are unlikely to happen, but you want to have a stab at them happening anyway. What do we describe them as? Something possible but improbable.
Possible but improbable, or on the other hand, a chance to stick the boot into a particular team / player that you really don't like. That tends to be the way that it goes. Yes,
last year we had to pick out a special segment just on Zach Hardacre predictions. This year it's Toronto / Sonny Bill Williams that we've had to pick out a section for. That we're just going to quick fire run through when we get to those. And then, of course, it'll be the quiz and our recommendations, which maybe we'll have a few. What I've tried to do mentally is space them out for the next few shows.
Oh, God.
For all the things I've enjoyed over the off season.
Yeah, good for you, because my life's been really boring. So that hopefully that'll be something to keep people entertained to the end of the show.
You've had a very busy off season. You've started your own other podcast, so I'm sure that'll come up as well at the end of the show. Yeah,
well, I've been moonlighting, so yeah, I might mention that. But yeah, don't get me wrong. There's loads of stuff going on in life, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But yeah, it's not necessarily things to be recommended for other people to follow.
Well, what for new listeners, what we'd also normally do in this opening part of the show is we would pick up on any feedback, questions, shout outs for people who've done something for us, and those sorts of things. So we will we'll do that when we get some questions in and those sorts of things. And also we would normally give a big big healthy advertising plug for our sponsors of the episodes. Now I was a bit late to the reaching out for getting sponsors for this year, so we've still got some of our partners on board, and we'll talk about those guys who give us a lot of support and help, and in different ways. We'll talk about those at the end of the show. But if you do want to sponsor an episode of the Super League Pod, if you go to superleaguepod.com, and check out either our episode blog post or the recent post I put up at the weekend, that'll explain kind of what you need to do to sponsor an episode, and we find all of that stuff really really helpful. Actually, I do have a shout out or two. We've had some donations in to help support the show over recent weeks. We've had one from Genghis Campbell. We've had one from Richard Ash. This is terrible. This is not written down. This is what happens when I do stuff that isn't written down, Alan. I'm going to have to
stick to the script.
I'll tell you what, guys. No, I can find this stuff out. Ad-lib.
Well, Mark covers up for his inability to do a rundown.
Well, have you know that I've done a beast of a rundown. I just forgot about putting this in. So, Genghis Campbell, like I say, and how do you see your activity? Right. Okay.
I don't know. It was. Didn't you say it was Richard Ashcroft from the Verve?
Richard Ashcroft from the Verve, but also Richard Ashworth, who's
Richard Ashworth as well.
Yeah, our friend who lives in the desert, and Alan Walker, of course, our Barcelona friend as well. So thanks to those international money sources here. These have all come from overseas. So I don't know if that's going to cause any.
Yeah, I'm going to say you might be setting off some alarm bells. You better be. You might be under covert surveillance.
They've got them in before Brexit, but we'll.
Money laundering not encouraged, but always possible.
But yeah, so thanks to those guys for their donations, much appreciated. Helps massively with our running costs, and has enabled us to run a couple of ads as well on Facebook this week, so that's always good. So yeah, thanks to those guys. We will now move along to news from around the world of Rugby League.
So in news this week, and possibly the biggest story, certainly been attracting a lot of column inches, Sonny Bill Williams will be allowed to cover up the logo of Super League sponsors Betfred on his Toronto Wolfpack jersey for religious reasons. The cross-code star, who converted to Islam in 2009, previously covered up the logos of banking sponsors while at Super Rugby Union side Auckland Blues. Super League and the title sponsors came to a compromise over the issue. And just for context, obviously French clubs like Catalan and Toulouse don't carry the sponsorship logos on the shirts at home games, as French laws prohibit the advertising of gambling, alcohol and tobacco products. And obviously we've seen, I'm drawn to things like if you see players who follow the Islamic faith, particularly in cricket, that they won't wear.
Didn't wear Castle Lager, wasn't it?
And like realistically, if they're sponsored by alcoholic brands, then they won't wear that, and I think that's totally fair enough.
There's been Irish footballers who haven't worn poppies and other things that get everyone up in a fury for not much reason, that these people have a personal choice to not like something or believe in something different, just as much as the person having the outrage has the rights to believe in what they believe in. Exactly. Yeah, I think the interesting thing I would say is on the Betfred Twitter feed, I saw an interview with Sonny Bill Williams where he was sat in front of a shit ton of Betfred signs. So maybe that was the compromise. But this has certainly drawn a huge ray of publicity onto the competition. Maybe the competition was lacking in a little bit of wider publicity in the build up to the season starting after the initial Sonny Bill explosion happened. So it has probably seen Betfred's name mentioned more times than it would be mentioned at your average like snooker tournament that they sponsor or what have you anyway, hasn't it? It's really been
of course, yeah.
All over. And credit to I think it was Ross Heppenstall, the old Bradford TNA journalist, who obviously now has a more widespread reach, but he I think he was the first one to sort of say, hold on a minute, didn't that happen, so will this happen? But yeah, an interesting story that's shone a big load of what publicity over proceedings, but ultimately at the end of the day not really a big, in a way, not really a big story. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, it's a matter of individual choice. I don't, I have some personal concerns about the pervasiveness of betting sponsors in sport generally. I think if it's something that you're not prepared to put on a kid's shirt, then there's something that tells you that it's not necessarily entirely good for a family audience. It is something that does cause issues for people. It causes issues with people's mental health. That there are warnings that they have to put all over their advertising. So it's a challenging sponsorship anyway. So I suppose in one way it's kind of drawing attention to that, isn't it? So it gets people talking about it. So that's no bad thing. And we are relying on it.
Yeah, we are relying on it, and I think totally there's legitimate concerns about lots of things in our society and people's ability to control themselves with things and deal with things, and some things have been banned from advertising because of that, because of health concerns. So potentially down the line we'll have to find the next thing that's going to get banned next to become our major sponsor of all of our sporting competitions.
That's the way it goes, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think Betfred have generally been a really good sponsor for Rugby League, and I don't think they've really pushed the betting down people's throats either. It's there, but it's not hammered home. Like they don't force Sky to like put odds on the screen all the time about everything, like you might have seen in the past in Australia before they curbed some of that stuff. And so I don't think it's really that. It doesn't exploit those people who want to bet. It's kind of, I think they've had a big positive impact, and they haven't really drilled home that you should bet that's better than not betting sort of mindset that I think some other sponsorships of some other sports maybe have done so. So striking the balance is right, and I think coming to this compromise has helped strike that balance, certainly.
Yeah, no, I mean, for me, Betfred is an interesting one. That I think they are. A marketing professional would tell it better than me, but it feels like they're doing a lot of brand recognition building more than being specific about other things. They're increasing their market, the knowledge of them in the marketplace more than it, as you say, being 5-1 for Tom Johnston to be the first try scorer type stuff.
And having the biggest name in world rugby. Being associated with your name, even if it's to be disassociated with it on his clothing, is huge in brand awareness building.
Yeah, the maxim "there's no such thing as bad publicity" has never been more true than in this particular story.
Shall we move on to a couple of more up-to-date stories? Certainly,
let's do that.
Which was confirmed today, which is that Wakefield Trinity have signed Wigan Warriors prop Romain Navarrete on a season-long loan deal. The 25-year-old France international has made 59 appearances for the Warriors since joining them in 2017 from Catalans. Chris Chester said he's a tough, aggressive middle unit and has a wealth of experience. He'll add some depth to the pack, and I'm looking forward to working with him throughout the year. Of course, we know that Wakefield are one of those sides that already the trade papers are reporting huge injury crises. Particularly for the very start of the season, they've got quite a few people who are questionable. Certainly, people in the pack. Some of the key men like Fafita and Arona maybe are still overcoming injuries from last year. So sensible, do you think?
Well, I think, I don't know if I got to mention it in the preview because I think that was in the midst of my technical difficulties, but I did say that they were undergoing quite a lot of change at prop. It's no bad thing to add a little bit of beef in there that they're obviously lacking because of injuries, etc. So, and he's, I think you've been his strongest critic at times, but he's a guy that's clearly